Manchester City have long targeted European glory on the pitch, but before Champions League matches, their fans can often be heard booing the famous theme tune. And the Etihad crowd are expected to repeat those jeers when their players line up for their crunch quarter-final second-leg showdown with their Tottenham rivals on Wednesday night. City fans have a long-standing problem with UEFA, despite Pep Guardiola having previously asked supporters of the club to bury the hatchet. The animosity stems from when Mario Balotelli was racially abused by Porto fans in the Europa League back in 2011-12 and received a paltry €20,000 fine. The following month City played Sporting Lisbon and were fined €30,000 for being around 30 seconds late getting back on the pitch in the second half. That set the outrage rolling, but it was financial fair play that really convinced City fans that UEFA were the enemy. An initiative that set out with the good intention of stopping clubs from spending beyond their means evolved into a means to stop clubs like City and Paris Saint-Germain, with rich owners, from benefiting from investment. City fell foul of the new rules in 2014 and were hit with a £49 million fine as well as restrictions on their transfer spending and Champions League squad size. That was when the booing really began, and it was compounded later that year by the dismissive way in which City fans were treated when they played a group game at CSKA Moscow. CSKA had their stadium closed after persistent racial abuse and bad behaviour by their support, and that ban included City fans, many of whom had already bought flights and hotel rooms for the game. UEFA refused to listen to their pleas, and on the night of the game CSKA made strenuous efforts to stop the few blues who had travelled out of the stadium, while hundreds of CSKA fans, some drunk and many wearing colours, were allowed in and in full view of the UEFA match delegates. That passed without sanction. In fact, CSKA subsequently had the length of the stadium closure reduced on appeal. To make sure they kept waving a red rag in front of a blue bull, in 2015 UEFA considered charging City after fans booed the anthem at a home game. Commonsense finally prevailed, with no charge forthcoming, and they changed their rules to allow such criticism to continue unpunished. That might have mollified some, but then UEFA did an about-turn on the financial fair play rules, relaxing the tough guidelines in 2016, just as traditional European powerhouse AC Milan announced they were receiving lucrative Chinese investment. The new rules applied to new investment, like AC Milan, but forbade it from City and PSG as they had already been punished under the FFP rules, fueling the feeling that FFP is simply a ploy to try to stop the new rich from outgunning the traditionally rich. If they needed another reason, it came last year, as UEFA announced a change to their coefficient point system, upon which the seedings for Champions League and Europa League draws are made. The old system awards points depending on a team's involvement and success in the European competitions, and it meant that City, after 6 consecutive seasons in the Champions League, had moved ahead of United, Liverpool and Arsenal. UEFA changed the allocation of coefficient points, factoring in a club's historical success, so clubs like United and Milan would get points for having won it 3 times in the past. They made their feelings clear last season when they booed the anthem before the quarter-final clash with Liverpool, and they're expected to repeat those exploits against Tottenham on Wednesday night.